My name is Dawn Standera. I live in Minnesota. I had a spinal cord tumor diagnosis in 2011, and in 2015, I had surgery to remove it. I wrote about my experience because when I had surgery, there was nothing there for me to read about what life might be like. And I wrote about my experience in the hope that it will inform, connect, and support anyone affected by this diagnosis. When I was told I had a spinal cord tumor, I wanted to hear, I needed to hear, that a somewhat normal life was possible after surgery, that my post-surgery life could look like my pre-surgery life, that the symptoms caused by the tumor would go away, that my body would heal. The answer to whether my life has been somewhat normal after surgery is yes. Yes, but it's complicated. I went into surgery with a body that was familiar to me, and I woke up after surgery in a body that was not. There were things I wanted to be able to do after surgery that after a few months I could do. I walked, I could drive, I worked, I played. I could do all of those things in an entirely new way, at a new pace, and with new challenges I did not have before surgery, but I could do them. No one who saw me walk down the street could imagine that my body behaved and felt as strange as it did. It's a curious paradox of life after surgery to feel so strange in my body, yet look so normal to others. After my surgery, I reached out to connect with and try to inform others about life after diagnosis and surgery through my book, Rewired, a story of recovery from spinal cord tumor surgery. Many people contacted me after reading it. Some were looking for more information about surgical outcomes. Others were curious about what my life had been like during the 6 years after surgery. Those conversations gave birth to a new book called Reconnected, Stories from Spinal Cord Tumor Survivors. As a community of people diagnosed with a rare tumor in a dangerous location, we know there is simply not enough information out there that speaks to the realities of life after diagnosis and surgery. This new book contains stories from 10 people about their life after diagnosis and surgery. More stories, more voices, more opportunities to connect. If you are someone with this diagnosis, I hope that reading what it was like for us will answer some questions for you and that it will give you some comfort. You are not alone.
My name is Monica Rochelle, and I am the author of the Journey series, From Hopeful to Hospice. The reason that I write is because my son, Von Jr., has a remarkable story. And I feel that it's a story that needs to be told. It's a story of hope and inspiration. It's certainly a story of extreme highs and extreme lows. And I just feel like it could really provide hope and inspiration for someone that may be going through a similar journey, but also that's going through other types of things in their lives. It doesn't have to be cancer, it doesn't even have to be sickness, but there are many things in our lives that require us to look for a source of hope and inspiration. And so that's what I hope this book does. His 5th birthday was a few days away. We had been planning a small gathering at home. His 4th birthday party was an elaborate celebration, complete with his favorite Ninja Turtle character providing entertainment. In light of what he had just gone through, we felt a larger party was in order. His school, which was located inside a local YMCA, provided the venue. As I continued making preparations, my spirit rejoiced at the thought that instead of a birthday party, I could very well be planning a funeral. It was at that moment that I decided that I was going to celebrate every single accomplishment and milestone, great and small, because every day was truly a gift. His birthday, the day of his party, was a Saturday. We had an appointment with the doctor to go over the test results on Friday. The appointment was in the oncology clinic, but I guess I just thought that was routine. We checked in and were taken to an exam room to wait for the doctor. When he entered the room, he was accompanied by a nurse that I recognized from Von's inpatient stay. She had given me some general information on different types of brain tumors. The doctor introduced himself and began to go over the pathology results of Vaughn's tumor. Looking back on that moment in time, things make a whole lot more sense now. But then he might as well have been speaking a foreign language because his words were not meeting up with my understanding. I think doctors try to lessen the blow and reduce the shock of it all by the choice of words they use. I do not recall hearing the word cancer. Instead, they described it as a malignancy. I happen to know what that word meant, but even if I didn't, my mind went back to a medical terminology lesson where I remembered mal meaning bad. That's all I needed to know. The results were bad. For the next few minutes, I felt as though a tornado was swirling around my head because the information just started spewing from their mouths at rapid speed, and none of it was penetrating. They said that the tumor was called anaplastic ependymoma. Never in my life had I ever heard of such. Did they just tell me my son had plastic in his head? Of course they didn't, but I had no idea what any of it meant. They said he would need a special treatment that wasn't offered anywhere in the state of Indiana. He would need to go to Chicago for treatment, and he needed to go right away. They told us that only one parent could go, and the other parent could travel back and forth on the weekend. They said this will last for at least 6 weeks. We would have housing arranged and transportation from the housing to the hospital each day. He would need treatment Monday through Friday for these 6 weeks. On top of all of this, he would need to have a port surgically placed in order to receive the daily sedation that would be required to receive the treatment. I'm sure if you look closely enough, you could see the smoke coming out of my ears. I was completely overwhelmed by the fact that my son had just been diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor, and they wanted to whisk him off to a different state and separate our family at a time when we surely needed each other the most. I was pretty speechless, but just still trying to process it all. Thank God that my husband had the presence of mind to put a pause on the bombardment of information to ask some questions. We needed to breathe. We needed to digest. We needed to think. We needed to discuss. We needed to research. We needed to breathe again. We had just been through a very traumatic experience, and we were elated that our little boy was whole, intact, seemingly unbothered by the ordeal. Now telling us this information definitely deflated our hopes of moving on with our lives. Looking at him and thinking about him having to endure anything else was just heartbreaking. We wanted to spare him, so we inquired about the option of just waiting it out and seeing what happened. The doctor made it clear that he strongly recommended the treatment begin as soon as possible. He said that without treatment, there was about a 90% chance that the tumor would return. Even with treatment, there was still about a 25% chance that it would return. I didn't like any of those odds. I wanted it all to go away. I wanted to celebrate my son's 5th birthday, and I didn't want to think about the possibility that he wouldn't celebrate many, many more birthdays. The doctor and nurse probably thought we were crazy. People reading this probably think we're crazy, but we told the doctor that we were going to celebrate our son's birthday, and we called them on Monday to further discuss our options. They reluctantly agreed, and we left the clinic armed with tons of literature about this cancer, as well as other sources to get more information. I don't know how we thought we were going to act like we hadn't just received terrible news and go on with the birthday party. But that is exactly what we did. Between last-minute preparations for the party, I took to the World Wide Web to gather any information I could find on this tumor, the treatment options, and the prognosis. I wanted to look at sources other than the ones the hospital provided. I wanted to know the ugly truth. I wanted to know what we were potentially facing.
Hola, soy Sofía y tengo 7 años. Mi nombre es Lucía y tengo 9 años.
Hola, mi nombre es Milagro Sáenz.
Mi nombre es Maynor Solís y soy un sobreviviente de un ependymoma mixopapilar. Somos la familia
Solís Sáenz.
Y el día de hoy estamos transmitiéndoles a ustedes este mensaje de amor y esperanza para hacer conciencia del Día del Ependymoma. La Fundación CERN tiene como propósito este 10 de mayo hacer conciencia de difundir este mensaje que queremos transmitir el día de hoy.
Es muy importante que se difunda el mensaje y se haga conciencia entre las personas sobre esta enfermedad, porque esa es la manera en que se destinan recursos para su investigación.
Nuestra historia comienza hace 4 años, cuando mi papá fue operado. El tumor de mi papá estaba en su médula espinal y gracias a la excelente intervención de los profesionales del Hospital México en Costa Rica, hoy en día disfruto de una vida mucho mejor con él.
Comprendemos los sentimientos que como familia puedan estar experimentando, mas sin embargo deseamos transmitirle esperanza y mucha buena voluntad para que, depositándonos en las manos de Dios, todo pueda salir de la mejor manera.
A pesar de tu diagnóstico, sí hay una esperanza. Yo soy un ejemplo de ello, pero no se confundan, la esperanza no es solamente sinónimo de estar vivos, va mucho más allá. Sin importar cuál es el concepto o la idea que tengas de Dios, busca en lo más profundo de ti y encontrarás el amor que guía tu vida. Escribí este libro llamado Antes y Después de mi Cáncer para brindarle esperanza a los pacientes que están pasando por eso y a sus familiares. Una de sus páginas dice así:
Este libro fue inspirado por Dios, para mi familia y para todos los que están luchando por su vida.
Por favor, ayúdenos a correr la voz y a celebrar este 10 de mayo como Día de la Concientización del Ependymoma, de manera que se puedan destinar recursos para la investigación de esta enfermedad.
Mantengan la mente muy positiva porque eso les va a subir las defensas.
Each year, monarch butterflies migrate from as far north as Canada to as far south as Mexico to escape the cold winters. And in the spring, they head back north. However, what makes this migration unique isn't just the migration itself, but how many generations of monarch butterflies it takes to get there. The monarch butterfly migration is a reminder of what it means to pave the way, to carry on a journey that you might not actually live to see the end of. What greater journey are we willing to be a part of, even if only for a limited time, even if it's someone else who lives to see the finish line?
Today's a sort of a tough day because it's also hard to stop and remember someone who inspired an entire movement to begin. And that's, I'm thinking of course, Kim's father, Dallas. Not that long ago when they said on a scale of 1 to 10, Dallas, how are you doing today? And it wasn't his best day, clearly. It was actually close to the end, but he said a 10. And that's the kind of attitude we all need to have, is that to bring that 10 every single day.
If there's one theme to my brief time at the podium this evening, it is gratitude. I am grateful for my wife, Allison, who's sitting right over here. She's the president and CEO of my own personal care team. I'm grateful for the doctors at Walter Reed, where I've been treated. I'm grateful for the many friends and family and strangers who have prayed for me and supported me and my family during the last several years. And I'm grateful for organizations like CERN and the work you do to support patients and researchers to find better outcomes.
I think that through CERN's efforts, really, launching this effort a long time ago, suddenly there's been this overwhelming concordance of a lot of different scientists and doctors, and we've learned an incredible amount about what makes ependymoma tick. Although everybody here is really invested in that sometimes flies under the radar a little bit, and yet at the same time it affects so many families and people and communities and children and adults both. And so it's just an exciting time. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to think about what we're going to do in the next year or 2 years, and can't be more grateful to be part of this mission.
We at the NIH are focused on the science, and science may provide the most useful way to organize our empirical, reproducible data, but its power to do so is predicated on its inability to grasp the most central aspects of human life: hope, fear, love, honor, weakness, suffering, and virtue. Like my experience in my own life, it was really the Walgren family that was at the heart of starting CERN. I was there when the blueprint was formed, with Clay and Mark on a napkin in a restaurant. And really that effort to bring together investigators, not only across disciplines, but across continents, to really focus on ependymoma. Human knowledge is never contained in one person. It grows from the relationships we create. Patients come from all different walks of life, and they all experience unique barriers. Having that narrative can change not only their care, but healthcare in general.
Today I'm speaking for those who no longer can. I am speaking for those diagnosed with a rare cancer, and I'm speaking because I am a mom who can. Finn Phoenix Paradise is a remarkable 3-year-old little boy who just so happens to also be a part of the Ependymoma warrior family. He was diagnosed with metastatic anaplastic ependymoma at 20 months old. His story is so important because we share it with so many other families. When I speak about how we got to his diagnosis, I sometimes see a mom let out a sigh, and I know her story is eerily similar. I have learned many of our journeys are not the same, despite the same diagnosis, but I know the road to getting that diagnosis is. Today, Finn is more of a 3-year-old and less of a cancer patient, and I pray you all can find hope and strength in Finn's story, because I have.
We won't stop working on finding better treatments and eventually a cure. But in the meantime, we'll tell our stories as a reminder that no one is alone. We aren't invisible. We are indeed human. And to remind ourselves of how far we have come. We change, we grow, we fly, we cry, we celebrate, we mourn, and we heal. And despite the challenges we face along the way, we tell our stories.